Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Paul Mackay from Analogue Wonderland, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the incredibly detailed film that is Adox CMS20. Quick one before we get started. If you like film photography and want to see more videos like this one, film reviews, tips and tricks, that kind of thing, then please do make sure you're subscribed to our channel and notifications are turned on. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to start with a very big claim. Adox CMS is the finest detail, the sharpest, and the lowest grain image resolving system in the world. Now that is a very bold claim. However, it is backed up by fantastic technical detail. The easiest way to explain the resolving power of this film is to say that if you shoot it on 35mm, you can blow it up to a print of 2.5 meters and you won't be able to see any grain. Now for those of you who shoot digital, that is probably approximately 500 megapixels that you can take, but of course fit into a tiny 35mm film camera. Very kindly, Richard, or Monkey Puncher is his Flickr handle, can show you this right here. So you have a photo that Richard has taken, and then we move to the zoomed in version. So this is a digital zoom on his computer, 100%, from his PlusTech scanner at 7200 DPI. So for those of you who know scanners, that is incredibly detailed, and it can resolve the letters on the letterbox from probably 3-4 meters away. And actually Richard says he's not sure that that's limited anymore by the film or by the resolving power of his scanner instead. He thinks it's going down to the pixel. So that gives you an idea of how brilliant this film is. Now, what's interesting about this film is that a lot of the technical films that we show you and that we play around with within the Wonderbox have been adapted from specialist techniques. So last week we had Super Positive, which was originally a dactylography film for fingerprint scanning. This film has been created by Adox right from the very start to be a massively detailed, fine grain or even zero grain up to 2.5 meters, 35mm emulsion. So this is a still film photograph emulsion right from the very start. It sees colour very well across the entire spectrum, so you're not going to get any difference of greens to reds to yellows as you can do with some films. It comes on a transparent base, so we have two things to think about there. As soon as you hear transparent base, we know to think about one, you can develop it as a slide film because the base won't then stop you being able to see through it. And two, our old friend light piping, so I'm being very careful to make sure that no light is being transmitted within this one. This is my one, by the way, don't worry, all the others are nicely safe in their canisters. So it sees the colours well, it comes on a transparent backing, and it has been designed to give exceptional detail. When we talk about the detail, Adox say that it can resolve up to 800 lines per millimetre of emulsion. So you think about that, 800 lines of detail within a millimetre. That is why you can get so big without seeing any detail in a final print. Now, I very deliberately at the start said imaging system rather than emulsion. This is the finest imaging system available. And the reason I said that was because to get that full level of detail and to get that incredible resolving power, you do need to use Adox's developing kit, Adotech, with the film. Now you can buy this for home developers. It comes in, I think, a 3 to 5 roll bottle, pretty affordable. Or you can send it to a developer. Silverpan, I spoke to Duncan from Silverpan before making this video to just double check. Yes, they do develop with Adotech. Just make sure that when you're submitting your order to them that they know that this is Adox CMS on the way, and they will make sure to develop it perfectly for you and scan it in a way that you will see this incredible amount of detail that we're also showing you with all the background images. Now this is an extra cost and inconvenience, I suppose, versus normal, but that is what this film is all about. And I do apologise for the fact we've gone Super Positive and then Adox CMS in a row, but again, we are really diving into black and white low speed films, and we will all benefit from the results as they come out. So if you're after fine detail, this is the one to go with, and either develop yourself in Adotech or send it to Silverpan, or check if your lab also can do Adotech. Now that being said, there are ways that you can develop this in normal developer. It does come with some downsides. So Adox will never recommend it because they will say the results are unreliable, which is very fair. I do understand that. This isn't just marketing speak. This is designed to work with the chemistry that they have developed. They built them in tandem. If you develop it in a normal black and white developer, you will get very strong contrast. And when I say strong contrast, I mean black and white film, very little grey in between. You should also overexpose it, so expose at ISO 3 to 6 instead of 12 or 20, we'll come on to that in a second. Expose it at ISO 3 to 6 to try and tame that contrast a little bit, but it makes for a very striking image. So if you don't want to worry about the specialist developer, if you want to send it to your normal lab, normal chems, then overexpose it and enjoy the crazy contrast that you will get. Now, what is its ISO in real life? Well, it's called CMS20, but its ISO is often referred to as ISO 12. It is going to be high contrast even if you use Adox versus some of the other films that you might be used to. And actually what Adox have done is given you some inherent control over that contrast. So what they say is that if you're shooting it in bright sunlight, i.e. high contrast light, expose it at ISO 12. Develop it in Adox and that will give you some nice controlled contrast. If you are shooting in cloud, i.e. lower contrast situation, then you can shoot it up to 20. If you shoot it at 20 in the sun, you will likely get very high contrast. I hope that does make sense. Of course, they haven't given any indications as to what you shoot it indoors, because at ISO 12 or 20, you won't be shooting indoors without a super long shutter speed or very bright lights. Now, I did also look up the reciprocity factor for this film. So if you're using long shutter speeds, as you might remember from an earlier video, if you go over about a second, most film sensitivity starts to drop, so you need to add even more time than the calculation would suggest. With CMS20, if your exposure calculator tells you to shoot anywhere between 1 and 10 seconds, add another 50% on. So if it's saying 4 seconds, add 50%, make that 6 seconds. If it's saying 6 seconds, add 50%, make that 9 seconds. If it goes over 10 seconds, double the time. So if your calculator says 15 seconds, expose for 30. If it says 30, expose for 60, etc. So there is some reciprocity you need to be aware of over those time periods, but it does allow you to shoot in lower light using a tripod, using a shutter cable, and exposing for a long time. Now, the other thing I want to cover very, very quickly is sharpness, because we've talked about how brilliantly sharp this film is. Of course, there is a restriction on that that's not just to do with the emulsion, not the developer, and that is your camera, or specifically your lens, the lens attached to your camera. Now, if you want to get into the detail of lens sharpnesses, then there is a world of statistics and tests that are available on the internet. And if you love that kind of thing, if you love seeing the graphs of sharpness over different things, then please do dive in. I will just leave sort of two top line thoughts. Number one, the quality of the lens makes a big difference. So a plastic lens like a Holga or Diana, lovely though they are, characterful though they are, you're not going to get a 2.5 meter perfectly sharp print if you use those lenses, as you might expect. And that goes down even into SLR lenses. Some lenses will be able to deliver exceptional detail, some won't. Generally speaking, the better quality of the lens, the better sharpness it will deliver. So that's one thing to think of if you're in that maximizing sharpness. The second thing is aperture. So generally speaking, and this again, big generalization, but a useful rule of thumb, the sharpest that the lens will be midway between its maximum and minimum apertures. So if you have a lens that opens up all the way to f1.4, it's highly unlikely that 1.4 will be the sharpest it will be. Similarly, at f32 or 22, it's unlikely to be the sharpest it can be. So aiming in the middle, f8, f11, something like that. If you're looking to maximize the sharpness, that's the aperture you should set. And of course, you've set your ISO because of the film. Your aperture is set due to sharpness, which means your shutter speed will be the only thing that you can play with. But hopefully, with reciprocity and with the light that we have, you'll be able to work that out pretty straightforward. For Wonderbox subscribers, welcome to our second interesting low-speed black and white film. As I say, unlike Super Positive, which we covered last week, this is designed for stills photography with all the caveats I've just said, but it is absolutely beautiful. I'm definitely going to embrace the sharpness on this one. Although I like the idea of a black and white high contrast film, I think there are other ones that I'm going to use with that. I am going to send this off to Duncan at Silverpan and get some really detailed results. I just need a sunny day. For everybody else, if you've shot this before, Please let us know what your top tips are. If you've used different developers, please drop those formulations, the recipes and the results below. We would love to see them, whether that's Instagram posts, Flickr albums or anything else, your personal website. We'd love to see them. Gain the experience of the community. Adox are so passionate about this film. They absolutely love it. And understandably, they have spent years perfecting all the technical details that go into it, messing around with where the halation layer sits in the emulsion, all that kind of thing, to make the sharpest imaging system in the world. So it is worth embracing, it is worth learning how to shoot, even if it doesn't become your everyday film. It's a fantastic one in your arsenal. It's a fantastic one that you know you can get results from. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy shooting with Adox CMS, and I'll see you soon.